Hey everyone, Ben Lieber again here with Vikings.com, coming to you again from Indianapolis at the 2019 NFL Scouting Combine. Another huge full day, a lot of great stuff going on. Now yesterday we heard from Rick Spielman, the Vikings GM, about the state of the Vikings going into the Combine. Now today we got a chance to hear from Mike Zimmer, so let's take a look at what he says about your Minnesota Vikings.
It's tough, and I got to do a better job of figuring out how, we go from 13-3 to 8-7-1. I got to figure that out better. I've got some ideas that, I'm going to try to be more resourceful this year, especially in some of those areas. But, consistency in this league, that's what it's all about. And then, we miss a field goal at the end in Green Bay, or we're in the playoffs anyway. So, then maybe it's not quite as bad. But, we didn't live up to our expectations, and I have to do a better job there. Every year, a tight end class might be better, or receivers or whatever. I just feel like the guys I've watched on tape so far and the guys I've met in person, this is a pretty good group. And, so I think there's going to be some good people to pick from there.
Well, hey, look who we found, Mr. Paul Allen here at the 2019 Scouting Combine here in Indianapolis. We had a chance today to talk exclusively with Mike Zimmer, both on your radio show and then also his press conference. Got to heard a little bit of that. Yeah. A couple of the highlights that I wanted to bring up. First and foremost, a lot has been said about Coach Kubiak coming on staff. And on your radio show, he really sort of lit up, right? His eyes got pretty big when he talked about just talking shop with that sort of mind and Rick Dennison in the same room. Take us a little bit through that.
Well, with Mike, he's a football snob. And, Gary Kubiak, who has either played or coached in 7 Super Bowls, and Mike's a Super Bowl winner from his days in Dallas, when you can just imagine when those two football minds get together, and the way I phrased it on the radio show 9 to noon on the flagship KFAN is like Kubiak will lay out, here's what an offense looks like. And then Zimmer's like, okay, well, I'll do this. Then Kubiak comes back and says, well, that's why I moved the receiver here. And then Zimmer's like, well, that's why I moved this piece here. And it's so cerebral, you can tell he's really charged and really excited about the ego-free nature of the offensive room, specifically with Kubiak and offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, and how it's advancing at this time of the year. I mean, Mike is elated at the progress of the Vikings offense this offseason.
And then as we move on to the conversation, we bring up offensive line. And boy, did he say, he kind of rubs his eyes and says, I'm tired of watching offensive line. I've watched so much offensive line.
This is a good group of offensive linemen. Every offensive line coach wants smart guys. They want guys that can move. Some guys like a little bit more power. Some guys like a little bit more athleticism. They all want toughness. Guys that have stamina, can play multiple games and not get hurt. A lot of those things are important. How fast they can move in with the system. So all those things are important.
And that's certainly not to marry the Vikings to offensive line at 18. I mean, if we're laying out odds on it, I'd bet they take an offensive lineman relatively early in the draft. But as a head coach of a football team, and Ben knows more about this than all of us, they watch everything. So it's not like this is the first time up to the combine into a draft Mike has looked at offensive line film. I think he's looked at it more this year than he ever has in his life. I mean, the Vikings, with their offensive line, it's obviously a major talker with this team. They will select offensive linemen early. I have no idea who it's going to be, but Mike is prepared. And, specifically with guards, I think Mike feels really good what's coming down the road.
One thing he brought up in the presser today, though, that we didn't really get a chance to talk about on the radio show was this idea of him being open to bringing in a specified kicking coach for his kickers.
The golfers have a swing coach. Everybody's got coaches now to do these things, and so I've been thinking really, really hard about maybe trying to find a true kickers coach. Where that's all he really does.
More and more teams are hiring a kicking-specific coach. Your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously you run it through the new special teams coordinator, Marwan Malouf. If that's what they want to do, say the name Ryan Longwell. I don't know what your former teammate's doing these days, but Ryan is a very affable, even-keeled kind of guy, who potentially could be somebody like that. I'm not saying it will be Ryan, but that's when I heard about that, that's the first name that came to mind.
Right.
But the Vikings aren't the only team in the NFL that have had some significant kicking problems of late. I mean, look at the Chicago Bears with Cody Parkey.
Yep.
He's not even on the team anymore, and he was dynamite at a certain part of the season. So a lot of teams are considering routes of attack with these kickers, and maybe this will be one here.
To have another set of eyes, another professional to kind of look at that, that could be something that we could see coming down the line for the Vikings. So I appreciate it, PA.
Got it, Nacho.
Thank you, man. We'll see you later. So one of the best things about the NFL Scouting Combine is that everybody is here. The whole NFL world is here. Scouts, GMs, coaches, and all the media that covers your favorite sport. And guess what? We had a chance to sit down and talk to a few of them. Here's a few highlights from the people that we met with.
Let's say the Vikings need an offensive lineman, sure. But the actual evaluation has to match up with the draft slot. You're not going to take, if the best grade you have on a left tackle or whatever is a second-round grade, you're not going to take that guy at 18. You're going to take whatever fits, the best evaluation for that spot, and then say, all right, we can take, a tackle in the second round or the third round. I mean, there's a lot of options, and to me, the Vikings are the way they are because they've drafted extremely well, and they haven't done that by reaching on guys.
I think what could happen at 18 is if you get a player who's on the defensive front, this D-line class is very, you could call them top-heavy, but it's deep, too. It's rich with a lot of talent. If you get a certain player who falls to you at that 18 spot, you might play him. I mean, let's not forget Sheldon Richardson. He's a free agent. We don't know what's going to happen there. Anthony Barr, maybe it's an edge rusher that's just too good to pass up. You feel like could play that outside linebacker spot or play on the line of scrimmage. You don't know what's going to happen with him. So that situation could play itself out. Mike Zimmer's got a background as being a secondary guy. Maybe all of a sudden you get one of those quarterbacks you're looking at, or a guy like Devin White from LSU. You're like, he's too good to pass up on, right?
Yes.
So you never know. That kind of stuff happens.
Second and third round, there are a lot of guards and centers that from what I understand, I'm not a scout, but like people I talk to, it certainly sounds like there's going to be a lot of guys who you're going to be able to plug in right away and are going to play in the league a long time.
Stefanski, again, I think he can be very successful. He's got to put his own stamp on it at the end of the day and figure out what he wants to be as an offensive play caller. Yeah, you listen to the Gary Kubiaks, you listen to Mike Zimmer as far as what they envision maybe as the big picture of the offense, but at the end of the day, he's got to find the formula and the nuts and bolts and plays and schemes that he likes and he feels Kirk Cousins is comfortable with, and okay, my running back likes this scheme a lot as well, and that's what it's tough as an offensive coordinator. He's got to find that correct balance and formula to make it all work, and I trust he can do that, especially with people like a Dennison and a Kubiak coming along, and Zimmer, I'm sure, is going to keep his pulse on the situation a little more than years past, maybe.
Mike Zimmer is going to bring a good defense, and we'll see what happens with Everson Griffin and Xavier Rhodes. And the frustrating part of this league is you can have great players, but because of money, they're going to have to go somewhere else. And so I'm interested to see how they can keep that thing functioning. But then offensively, I think from a national perspective, is this team underachieved last year with a quarterback that was designated to be the difference in it advancing in Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. Yeah. So, Stephon Diggs was fantastic. Adam Thielen was outstanding. But, what does this offense morph into with Stefanski and, all the tools that this team has? And Delvin Cook, to me, is one of the best backs in the league. So how are you going to use him better next year?
Yesterday, you had a chance to watch Pete Bercich break down some defensive players. Well, now, let's see him break down some offensive players.
Right now, we're going to look at a couple more offensive linemen that are going to be available in the 2019 draft. The first guy that we're going to take a look at is Jonah Williams out of the University of Alabama. Here's a big man, a lot of power, good quick feet, getting in the second level, gets on the block, but like I said, stays on the block, pushes the defender past the play, and then decides, hey, I'm going to get something on somebody else. So he's always looking for an off-colored jersey to go after. Cody Ford, University of Oklahoma. Not a lot of tackles can pull. So this guy gets all the way around from the outside, able to get in the hole, and then not just meet the linebacker and stalemate, but you watch that right arm come in and that right foot, right arm, right foot, he's able to pick that man up and throw him out of the hole to give the running back a nice cutback lane. Another good example, Andre Dillard on the outside, taking on another defensive end. You're going to get a stunt here. This is what happens in the NFL. You're going to get a lot more of these kinds of stunts. In this case, you're getting a defensive end that's coming in. He wants to pin this tackle and shorten the turn for the defensive end. So offensive lineman staying square, getting his body position low. That's one thing that these guys, they say, they're big, they're tall, but his pads are below the defensive end. So I like the knee bend, takes the defensive end into his guard help, and then is able to get big and get strong and lower that anchor. And you can see that despite the stunt, there's a nice pocket right in there. Very impressive group. Are these guys going to block past and all the way to the whistle, get up to that second level, and are they smart and aware enough that they can learn these line stunts and learn how to fit into an offensive system?
So today's the first day of on-field workouts for all these players. So take a look at the workout schedule and find your favorite position group on NFL Network and check that out. And also, always come back here to Vikings.com for all the latest and greatest Viking news coming your way from the 2019 NFL Scouting Combine.